Welcome everybody. This is the webinar for the volunteer and the team online community that we are starting. Co-hosting with me is Jeremy Venz and Lane Doak. Let's go ahead and just wait a few more minutes for more folks to join in, maybe just 2 or 3 minutes. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and proceed.
Sounds good.
Jeremy and Lane, whenever you guys are ready, go ahead and take it over and I'll put myself on mute and we can begin.
Yeah, I've got to figure out how to share my screen again. The UI just changed.
Oh, sure.
Oh, there we go. Okay, can you see my screen?
I can, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, there's nothing telling me that you can see my screen. Okay, so yeah, as Becca mentioned, we have created a new Slack workspace for FTC-Iowa this year and hopefully future years. Part of the idea behind this is a community that would allow teams, volunteers, coaches, and anybody else related to FTC-Iowa to be able to have a space that they can ask questions and get answers from anybody else, hopefully in a more timely fashion than trying to email just myself or Becca for some of these questions. You may be able to get quicker answers this way, as well as just getting feedback and help from other teams. We want this just to be a space that everybody can use in the community as a community. So first off, I've been working with Lane on creating the space. I've been focusing more on the volunteer aspects, making it a space for the volunteers to use, and Lane has been focused on making it a space for students to use. So before we get into what is Slack and how Slack works, I want to go over a little bit of how to get into this community. So what I've done is created a landing page. So if you go to bit.ly, bit.ly/ia-slack, which is this URL here, you'll come to this page here. Enter your email address if you're a student, coach or mentor, volunteer, or other. If you're associated with a team, put a team number here. If you're associated with multiple teams, just pick your favorite and put that team number here. And click join. When you click join, it'll send you an email right away with an invite link to actually join the Slack community. When you join, you'll automatically be added to this general channel. So Lane, I'll let you kind of take over from there and talk about what is Slack, how this all works, and kind of a high level what to expect from this.
Okay, sounds good. So Slack is pretty much an open forum, allowing people to communicate back and forth and discuss like general rules and basically brief over things like that. But it can also be used as a tool to share information. And something we'd really plan on doing is pushing for a big resource hub for teams, so then you can link in videos of explaining a little bit on how you do a little bit of designing for your robot, or explaining a little bit how you handle some of the volunteer end of things. And hopefully with everything that we currently have set up, that allows everyone to do that. But as Jeremy mentioned, it's a pretty big area, and for both teams and volunteers to collaborate together. So if a team has a question for a volunteer or vice versa, it can be pretty easily answered. Let's see if I can share my screen. I think that, can you guys see my screen?
It's black background.
Yeah, can you see this?
Yep.
Okay, sweet. So this is the current layout that we have for Slack. We've got a bunch of separate channels throughout over here. Most of them consist of team specific and volunteer specific. And I'm gonna start by talking a little bit about what the channels are. So I actually have to join one first here. So channels are an open place for you to ask questions and for you to communicate and talk with other team members and volunteers. So when you go into a channel, you've got all of the archive of what people have said. And then inside some of the messages, like some up here, you've got little threads. And in threads are pretty much another channel embedded in there. And that allows you to kind of keep questions and then answers to those questions in a little bit of more organized area. But channels are pretty much the main hub of where all the discussion will thrive. And Slack hopefully has everything split up to where all the questions and answers and all the discussions could be split up into separate channels, allowing people to communicate a little bit easier. And then for joining...
Just to interject one thing. So we have created the channels as we think makes the most sense. But we also have a channel there called feature requests. And so if anybody has ideas that we could, additional channels we should add, or anything that would make this community better for everybody, feel free to post those there, and we'll take those under consideration.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got a wide variety of channels. Some you can join, others you don't have to, but let's say I wanted to join team only, or like a few general specific ones. So I would probably join team general, and you can just do that by clicking on browse all channels and then select one you want and then join it. And maybe I want a little bit of volunteer stuff so I can kind of keep up to date with all that, and so on and so forth. And the nice thing about having separate channels that you join is you don't really have to have all of them in your list and get notifications for all of them. You only have to focus and kind of keep eye on the ones that you want to look at. So let's say I was interested in programming only and not so much the robot. I could go in and say, hey, I just want to look at all the programming side, or like programming in blocks over Java, and so on and so forth. So next is threads, which I briefed over earlier. Threads are pretty much just a channel inside of a message. And to start one, you go over here and click on Start Thread. And then you can send a message normally, just like a channel. The nice thing about threads, especially popular ones, they actually show up in here. I don't think there are any open now, but I bet if I send a message, it will pull. Yeah, it pulls up all here. So all the recent threads and all that shows up in here, and you can kind of keep up to date with all the questions and answers throughout all that area. And that's something I plan on keeping an eye on, because that allows people like looking in for answering a bunch of pretty specific questions, either on robot or programming, to kind of help with that a little bit, finding those questions and not having to scroll through endlessly until you find a little bit. And then otherwise they work pretty much exactly like channels. Next is creating and viewing them. This is probably the best place to find them. Creating them, I showed you a little bit ago. I don't think there's anything really specific about threads that need to be talked about besides that what I've already mentioned. And then lastly is navigating Slack. So as we've been going through this, you kind of see how Slack kind of moves around and how it all runs through. But most of it's broken down into channels, threads. You can find threads here. And then I think you can search pretty much anything here, either members, channels. Let's see. Let's see if we can find messages with my name. I'm not sure. But there are lots of little tools like that. And then you can start things like messages. So let's say somebody posted a link to a video that you wanted to know. You could start, and then up here, it'll show you all the start items you have. So you can keep record of kind of the things you want to keep an eye on, or other threads and stuff you want to see and view. I'm not sure. Yeah. Little things like that. And then some other little things is you can create custom emojis and use them. Let's see. So we've already got a few created, things like volunteer, and I don't know the other ones actually. FTC. Yeah, there's one. FTC-Iowa. So you can actually create and add your own. And I believe it's by going to, it's different on this.
I believe it's customized Slack.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it pulls up a separate page, and then it goes straight to all this. Can you see that bit on your end?
Yes, we can.
Okay. And then from there, you can just add an emoji and upload an image.
So one of the ideas behind this is, say you want to put your team's logo as a badge or something, you could create an emoji for your team's logo and add that into the Slack space.
Yeah. Let's see. And then
we're still on the custom emoji page.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything else as far as navigation, all that. I think everything's pretty self-explanatory as far as where everything's found. One really nice thing that I'm going to talk about here in a minute is private channels, but they work pretty much the same as regular channels. So we might as well dive straight into that actually. So you can create private channels for your team and other people like that. So let's say I wanted to make a private channel between Jeremy and our main programmer. We could do that, create a channel, and that would create a channel specific to us that only we could see. And then we can talk and communicate throughout all of that. And it works exactly the same as a normal channel. You can create threads, send messages, and so on and so forth. And then to invite people, yeah, you go up here, settings, add people to channel, and then you just search by name, and then add.
And it's worth pointing out, when you create a custom channel like this, only you and the people you explicitly add have access to it. So anybody else that just joins the Slack space would not be able to see it unless you have explicitly added them.
Yep. So with this, you can create specific channels for your team. You can create it for a few people on your team. You can create it for you and like 50 other teams, and you can do lots of crazy things with that. And that allows you to have a little bit more like open discussion on this platform and allowing you to kind of keep everything in one little area instead of having to go back and forth between other platforms like Discord or Skype. And then I think that's pretty much it as far as Discord or Slack navigation and all that. Creating channels. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Oh yes, tagging. So tagging is pretty much just where you at somebody, and then it brings them to. It just sends them a push notification to their like phone or their desktop application. And I'm not sure if you want to send me another one if it pops up on desktop. I'm not sure. But usually it sends, yeah, like that there. And that kind of allows you to go directly to where you want to see messages and stuff. And a few other platforms like Discord have it, but this one is executed pretty nicely.
So that's, I think that's a pretty high level overview of how Slack works. If anybody has any specific questions, Lane and I are both always happy to help out. Also, there's a lot of other people on here, so if you just post a question, probably it's random, you'll get a response pretty quickly. The more people that we get into this workspace, the better it's going to be. So, I encourage everybody to share it amongst the FTC-Iowa community. And then also one other thing I wanted to just touch on really quick is, we kind of talked about the team and the volunteer channels. And so, I think for the most part, the names are self-explanatory, but just to keep everything as organized as possible, try to find the channel that's most relevant to the topic of discussion. Just because I think that'll help everybody find any questions or get involved with discussions that directly influence them or that they're interested in. And also, volunteer tech team is primarily for FTA type diagnosis of problems. So, I mean, if you really need to get a hold of me or something, you can post there, although you can also just direct message me. But for the most part, that's so CSAs, FTAs, FTAAs at an event can help each other triage issues. I think that's the only one that's maybe a little confusing of its purpose. Lane, did you have anything else to add, or do you want to open the floor to any questions?
Yeah, I think that's everything I've got. So any questions anybody's got? If there are any.
Do you guys want to emphasize or mention that there is a Slack app and they can access it through their device as well?
That is a very good point. There is a Android and iPhone app for Slack, as well as a desktop app in addition to the web browser version. So there are lots of ways to get connected to the Slack. And every one of the platforms works very well with Slack. It's a very polished platform that just seems to work very well.
Tracy, I went ahead and unmuted you. You have a great question. So if you wouldn't mind asking it.
Not a problem. So comfortable with the idea of sharing with coaches, sharing with volunteers. Is this also intended to be shared so that individual team members could create an account and access this information? Or is this to be channeled through coaches only?
We would like the team members to have access. One of the purposes behind this was to get a more direct line from students on one team to students on another team, as well as from the students to the volunteers. So yeah, I highly encourage communicating this with your teams. Let your students know about it. We have I think 14 teams that are so far represented by students on the Slack. I was just looking at the spreadsheet. So, you know, I'd love to see some of the students from every team in Iowa get involved with this. It might be an optimistic goal, but it would be really great to get all the students involved.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Yep.
Actually, Tracy, that's an excellent question. Maybe we should create a channel for tournament hosts.
I like that idea.
And we can talk about that offline.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
Yes, we can definitely do that. I just will need to know some logistics about it.
Okay. And then also, since Tracy is a league admin as well, a separate channel for that.
I also considered creating an individual channel for each league.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that might be a great idea too.
Yeah.
Are things from Slack, are they archived at all? So like, for example, next season, are we going to have to recreate all these channels, or will they carry over? Do they ever end, basically?
It should carry over. I think there is a message limit with the basic plan, which is something that we'll look into. But
so the way that works is it will archive the most recent 10,000 messages.
Okay.
So the channels, those are there for good. We don't have to worry about having to recreate them or anything. Whenever we eventually get to 10,000 messages, it just starts dropping off the oldest messages. So we should be fine with that. FRC uses Slack, and they go about 1.5 seasons before they hit the 10,000 mark and are starting to lose stuff. So
is that 10,000 messages per channel or per account, or
I am not sure on that.
Okay. Okay.
It's 10,000 is a lot of messages, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I think this is great.
Oh, and this does replace the Discord that was created earlier, by the way.
Yeah.
Now I have to find Discord and remove myself from that.
But yeah, hopefully this will be a good space for some good discussion and just get everybody involved.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
Very cool. Any other final questions? You can either type it in the box or unmute yourself. All right. Well, thank you all very much. What we're going to go ahead and do is we'll upload this video, this recording, to YouTube and send it out in the next, well, we'll put it in the spreadsheet where all the webinars went, and then make an announcement in the next newsletter about Slack, which I think there was something in the previous newsletter. So if there's, Jeremy and Lane, if there's anything else that we can do to publish or to get the word out from here, I do like the idea of maybe the league admins to really kind of encourage teams to join whatever, and kind of go from there. So
sounds like a plan to me.
Yep.
All right. Tracy or David, any last final words or questions?
I suspect you'll have a team member from 9967 before the night is over.
And maybe a coach too?
Well, that's already taken place. I bet you'll have a student. I bet I'll have a team member on there before 9 o'clock.
Very cool. Very cool. David, how about you? Do you have any questions, bud?
You said 9967?
Yes, sir.
He already joined. Or no, that's you. Sorry. Tracy joined.
Alrighty. Well, if there's any other questions, just go ahead and add it to the Slack. Otherwise, you can email ftc.iowa@gmail.com and we'll get them answered to the right spot.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you all very much. Have a fantastic evening and get ready for all the league meets coming up on the 19th.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you.
Night.
Yep. Bye.